Okay, class, we're about to start lesson 2, decimal operations. It's addition and subtraction. Now, basically, I'm not going to read through all of this here, but I am going to show you how to do these problems. So let's get started. Let's scroll on to the practice 2.1. Okay, now with practice 2.1, this is basically how it will go. When you're adding or subtracting decimals, you must line them up first. That's only with addition and subtraction that you have to line up the decimals. So what I'm going to try and do here, I'm going to do a few odd problems with the with addition and subtraction. So let's get started here. I want to start off with problem number 1. For problem number 1, we have 4.025 plus 3.971. Now, if you notice, all of the place values are perfectly aligned with each other, which you need to do. So now we go and do our addition the regular way. 5 plus 1 is 6, 2 plus 7 is 9, 0 plus 9 is 9. Bring down our decimal, and 4 plus 3 is 7. So it's just regular addition after you line them up. So what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to do from the top, I want to do all the addition first, then come back and do the subtraction. So let me go to problem number 3. Problem number 3, we had 2.8 plus 9.46. Now, if you notice here, we had 2 digits behind the decimal, but we only have 1 here. Add a 0. So we have the same amount of digits behind the decimal. So we have 0 plus 6 is 6. 8 plus 4 is 12. So you bring down your 2, bring down your decimal, carry your 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 9 is 12. So it's 12.26. Okay, next problem. I think I want to do problem number 7. So 7, we have 17.294 plus 0.8. Now again, we must line those decimals up, and we will put zeros here as placeholders, so we will have just as many numbers behind the decimal as we have in front. So we have 4 plus 0 is 4, 9 plus 0 is 9, 2 plus 8 is 10. Bring down our 0 and our decimal and carry our 1. 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 0 is 8. And then this is 1 plus, we know this is assumed to be a 0. So 1 plus 0 is 1. So, okay, now that took care of our addition for these top values. So now we're going to do the subtraction. And what I want to do, start off with problem number 5. Let me start off with problem 5. Problem 5, we have 8.5, and then we have minus 1.074. Now we add zeros here. So we have the same amount of digits behind the decimal as we have in front. So now we do subtraction. We know we cannot subtract 4 from 0, and we can't borrow from 0. So we go to this 5 and borrow, so that'll become 4. This 0 will become 10, but then we got to borrow from it, and that'll make it 9, and then this 0 will be 10. So 10 minus 4 is 6, 9 minus 7 is 2, 4 minus 0 is 4. Bring down our decimal, and 8 minus 1 is 7. So it's 7.426. Okay, next, we're going to look at problem number 11. Well, no, let's look at 6 first. 6 and then 11. So we will have 10. Now listen, if you notice, this 10 does not have a decimal. But just like I showed you all on previous problems, I'm going to write it in the center here. If you have $5, we know $5 is the same as this here. You notice there's no decimal shown here, but it's a decimal shown here, and they're the same value. So that means that this 10 can have a decimal here. And since we see there's two digits behind a decimal in the problem, we can add 2 zeros and then do minus 7.89. Okay, so now we have this lined up. We know we cannot subtract 9 from 0, so we have to go until we get to a non-zero number to borrow from. So this 1 becomes 0. This 0 becomes 10, but we borrow 1 from that and it becomes 9. This 0 becomes 10, but we borrow 1 to make that 9, and this last 0 becomes 10. 10 minus 9 is 1. 9 minus 8 is 1. We bring down our decimal. 9 minus 7 is 2. So we have 2.11. Okay, now we go to our next problem. Problem 11. Problem 11, we have 14.64 minus 10.8. Again, we line up these decimals and make sure that we have the same amount behind the decimal as we have in front of the decimal. So now we subtract. 4 minus 0 is 4. We cannot take 8 from 6, so we borrow 1 from this 4, make it a 3, and this 6 becomes 16. 16 minus 8 is 8. Bring down our decimal. 3 minus 0 is 3, and 1 minus 1 is 0, so it's 3.84. Now, if we look at problems 13 to 24, they're basically the same as problems 1 through 12, except for there's two things about this. One, you have to line these problems up yourself, and then you also have the addition problems that has more than just two values. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do problem 18, 20, and 24. And that will be it from these problems that I would do. So problem 18, so we have 0.45, 1.8, 0.07, 2.56. So now we make sure they're all lined up, and we have to make sure that all of them have 2 digits behind the decimal, which we have now. So now we add this. 5 plus 0 is 5, plus 7 is 12, plus 6 is 18. Bring down your 8, carry your 1. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 8 is 13, plus 0 is 13, plus 5 is 18. So it'd be 8. Bring down your decimal, carry your 1. 1 plus 0 is 1, plus 1 is 2, plus 2 is 0, plus 0 is 2, plus 2 is 4. So it's 4.88. Okay, so problem number 20. So we had 25. And you notice we had 3 digits behind the decimal with the second value, so we'll make it 25.000 minus 10.984. We cannot subtract 4 from 0, so we go until we go to a non-zero number, which is this 5, borrow 1, that's 4. This 0 becomes 10, borrow 1 from that, it becomes 9. This 0 becomes 10, borrow 1 from that, that becomes 9. And this last 0 becomes 10. 10 minus 4 is 6. 9 minus 8 is 1. 9 minus 9 is 0. Bring down your decimal point. 4 minus 0 is 4, and 2 minus 1 is 1. Okay, now we go here to problem 24. Problem 24, we have 32.9. And then we have minus 15.675. We add 2 zeros at the end. Now, we cannot subtract 5 from 0, so we go to this 9 and make it an 8. This 0 becomes 10, borrow 1 from that is 9, and this 0 becomes 10. 10 minus 5 is 5, 9 minus 7 is 2. 8 minus 6 is 2. Bring down your decimal. We can now subtract 5 from 2. We'll borrow 1 from this 3, make that 3 a 2. And this 2 becomes 12. 12 minus 5 is 7. 2 minus 1 is 1. All right. Now we come here to these final problems. It says choose the one best answer to each question. Now listen, I told you all this before in class. Sometimes when they tell you to choose the one best answer, that means that it's possible that it does not have the exact answer, but you would pick the answer that's closest to it. Like say for instance, you solved a problem and you solved it correctly, and your answer was 21. But 21 wasn't one of the answer choices, but 22 was. In that case, you would pick the 22. Now, hopefully, when they say the one best answer, that means that they have the exact answer here, but I just want to warn you about that. Okay, so let's look at problem 26. It says Claudia earns overtime pay when she works more than 40 hours in 1 week. How many hours of overtime pay did she work for the week of March 4th? Now remember, they asked us how many hours of overtime pay did she work. Now, so first we got to deal with her first 40 hours. You won't count the first 40 hours because that's regular pay. You want to count everything past the 40 hours. So the first thing we have to do is add up all of these hours. So for problem 26, we'll do 8.5. We add 9.25. We add 8.75. We add 10. And then we'll put 0.00. And then we will have 7.75. And we'll add a 0 here. So now we add all of this up. 0 plus 5 is 10. Plus 0 is 10. Plus 5 is 15. Bring on your 5, carry your 1. 1 plus 5 is 6. Plus 2 is 8. Plus 7 is 15. Plus 0 is 15. Plus 7 is 22. So bring down your 2. Bring down your decimal and carry your 2. 2 plus 8 is 10. Plus 9 is 19. Plus 8 is 27. Plus 0 is 27. Plus 7 is 34. Bring down your 4, carry your 3. And 3 plus 1 is 4. So it's 44.25. All right. Now, and that is 44.25. But remember, we want all the hours over 40 hours to determine how much overtime pay this person makes. So we have to subtract the 40 hours out. And we will have to add these extra zeros as well. 5 minus 0 is 5. 2 minus 0 is 2. Bring down our decimal. 4 minus 0 is 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. So your answer here would be C. So they would get paid for 4.25 hours of overtime. Okay, 27. It says a plumber cut 2 lengths of pipe measuring 2.8 and 1.4 meters from a 6-meter length. Assuming there was no waste when the cuts were made, what is the length in meters of the remaining piece? So you have to look at this here. These 3 pieces are equivalent to this piece here. So what it's saying is 2.8, 1.4 plus the question mark is supposed to equal 6. Okay? So now this is what we could do. We could add the 2.8 and 1.4. Let's add that first. 8 and 4 is 12. Bring down your 2 and your decimal, carry your 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 1 is 4. So that's 4.2. So now what we would do, we would take 6.0 minus 4.2. So we can now subtract 2 from 0. We have to borrow 1 from the 6 and make it a 5. This 0 becomes 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. Bring down our decimal, and 5 minus 4 is 1. So our final answer here is 1.8, which is A. And the reason why we did that is because to find out what's missing, all we had to do was take the total amount minus what we have, and that would tell you what's missing. Okay, now, we're done with this section, but now we're going to go to multiplication and division of decimals. Now, they tell you here for A, solve, you may not use a calculator. And then they tell you down here, choose the one best answer to each question. So they're telling you, do not use a calculator for this section. So we're going to go through this section. And remember, like I told you all in class, we know we have heard of animals that are colorblind, and we know of people that are colorblind. When you're doing multiplication of decimals, when you're doing the actual multiplication, I want you to be decimal blind. And I'm going to show you what I mean about being decimal blind. For number one, we have 5.3 times 0.5. Now, what I'm asking you to do in your mind, even though you see this, I want you to multiply it as if you saw this. 53 times 5. Because if you drop the decimal, the 0 will go as well. So I want you to multiply as if you see this. This would be without those decimals. So we multiply. 5 times 3 is 15. Bring on your 5, carry your 1. 5 times 5 is 25, plus 1 is 26. Okay, good. So that's 265. Now, the only time you really need the decimal is for your final answer. And what you do for your final answer, you look at how many digits, with multiplication, how many total digits are behind the decimal, and everything that you multiply. It's only 2 digits behind the decimal total, so your final answer has to have 2 digits behind the decimal. So 5.3 times 0.5 is 2.65. Now we're going to jump over. Let's go to problem number 7. Now remember, this is 6.25 times 1.4. And you also don't have to line up the decimals. You don't have to do that with multiplication. Now remember, I told you I want you to be decimal blind. Now, one other thing, well, let me do this problem, and then I'll address what I was thinking in problem number 9. Okay, so we're going to multiply this. 4 times 5 is 20. Bring down your 0, carry your 2. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. Bring down your 0, carry your 1. 4 times 6 is 24, plus 1 is 25. We'll add a 0 here. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2, and 1 times 6 is 6. So we'll add all these together. So this will be 0, 5, 7, 8. So we got 8,750. We go back up to the original problem, count how many total digits we have behind the decimal. We have 1, 2, 3 digits. So our answer here will be 8.750, or you could just write 8.75. But this is your final answer. Okay, now, with number 9, I want to address an issue here. With number 9, we have 9.62 times 1.005. Now, I told you all before in chapter 1, when you're dealing with all multiplication, multiplication is commutative. It means that it doesn't matter which order you multiply in, you're going to end up with the same answer. For example, if I took 2 times 3, we know that's 6. But if I turned around and put 3 times 2, that's still 6. So as long as it's a multiplication, if you turn it around, it's still going to give you the same answer. Or if you flip it, like here, 9.62 times 1.005, you'll get the same answer if you put 1.005 on top times 9.62. Now let me tell you why I'm telling you all this. when I told you all to be decimal blind, if you take out these decimals, the longer number would be this 1005. So it's a little easier when you put the longer number up top times the shorter number on the bottom. Okay? And the reason being is on the bottom here, you have to multiply by 4 different numbers. Here, you only got to multiply by 3 numbers, but you will get the same answer. So let's go and multiply. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry a 1. 2 times 0 is 0 plus 1 is 1. 2 times 0 is 0, and 2 times 1 is 2. We add a 0 here. 6 times 5 is 30. Bring all your 0, carry your 3. 6 times 0 is 0, plus 3 is 3. 6 times 0 is 0, and 6 times 1 is 6. We add 2 zeros. 9 times 5 is 45. You'll bring down your 5, carry your 4. 9 times 0 is 0, plus 4 is 4. 9 times 0 is 0, and 9 times 1 is 9. So we will add these numbers. We had 0, 1, this is 8, 6, 6, 9. So now we look here at our final answer, and then we count how many digits we have behind the decimal. We have a total of 5 digits behind the decimal. So we have to have 5 digits behind the decimal here. So it'd be 9.66810. And that would be your final answer for that problem. Now, the next thing, I think I want to finish up the multiplication, and then I'll go to the division. Let me try number 19. 19, we had 3.36 times 1.1. So we'll write this vertically. So we had 3.36 times 1.1. Now, if you notice here, if you drop the decimals, you add 3 digits at the top, 2 at the bottom. So let's multiply. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 3 is 3. We add our 0. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. And 1 times 3 is 3. Now we add this. This would be 6, 9, 6, 3. We count how many digits we have behind the decimal here. We had 3 digits behind the decimal. So it'd be 3.696. Okay, now that took care of all the multiplication from the top. Now I want to get into the division at the top. So with the division, I want to start off with problem number 4. With problem number 4, we have 6 into 3.12. All right, so we bring up our decimal. 6 does not go into 3, so we put a 0 here. 6 goes into 31 5 times. 5 times 6 is 30. 31, again, you're doing being decimal blind here. This is, we'll consider this 31 minus 30. That'll be 1, and then we'll bring down our 2. 6 goes into 12 twice. 2 times 6 is 12. No remainder. So your answer is 0.52. Okay, now the next value I want to go to, let's jump, well, let me do another problem. Let me do number 6, and then we'll jump to number 11. Number 6, we have 5 into 20.45. Okay, so now we'll bring up our decimal. 5 doesn't go into 2, but 5 goes into 20 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 minus 20 is 0, and we bring down this 4. 5 doesn't go into 4, well, 5 goes into 4 0 times. 0 times 5 is 0, and we bring down, well, 0 times 5 is 0. 0, 4 minus 0 is 4, and now we bring down this 5. 5 goes into 45 9 times. 9 times 5 is 45. 45 minus 45 is 0. So your final answer is 4.09. Okay, now we're going to jump to problem number 11. Now, number 11, we have 2.8 into 39.76. Okay, now unlike 4 and 6, we have this value, our divisor has a decimal. So what we have to do, we got to get rid of this decimal off of our divisor by moving it until we make it a whole number. If we move it once, that'll make that number 28, which is a whole number. So however many places we move it here, we have to move it that many places under the division bar here. So then that would make this 397.6, and we'll bring up our decimal. Now we can solve this. 28 doesn't go into 3, but 28 goes into 39 once. 1 times 28 is 28. 39 minus 28 is 11. Bring down your 7. 28 goes into 117. We will have to look at this. I believe it goes in, what, 4 times? Yeah, I believe it's 4 times. 4 times 8 is 32. 2 carry a 3. 4 times 2 is 8. Plus 3 is 11. So 117 minus 112 is 5. And then you bring down this 6. 28 goes into 56 twice. 2 times 28 is 56. No remainder. So your final answer is 14.2. Okay, so now they took care of problem number 11, but I want to do problem 12 as well. Okay, problem 12. We have 0.003 into 47.4. We have to move this decimal 3 places to the right. 1, 2, 3. To make this a whole number. So this will become 3. Now we have to move this decimal 3 places to the right. 1, 2, 3. Because we have to move it the same amount of places we moved it here. So this will give us 3 into 474. And then we have to add 2 zeros here. And then since we started out with a decimal, I'll put a point and 1 0 behind the decimal, just in case we have to go behind the decimal. So we'll bring this decimal up. 3 goes into 4 once. 1 times 3 is 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. We'll bring down our 7. 3 goes into 17 5 times. 5 times 3 is 15. 17 minus 15 is 2. We'll bring down our 4. 3 goes into 24 8 times. 8 times 3 is 24. So that's 0. Now we bring down this 0 here. 3 goes into 0 0 times. 3 times 0 is 0. Bring down this next 0. 3 goes into 0 0 times. Now, and we'll subtract 0. Now, if you see here, we don't have to go behind the decimal because we have the answer. It's 15,800. And that's the final answer. And that's the comma here. So it's 15,800. All right. So that took care of that problem. Now I want to try one that we have to set up ourselves. I think number 17. No, 17 is multiplication. Let's do 16. Okay, with 16, we start off with 1.32 divided by 0.5. So we have to rewrite this into the decimal form that we're used to working with. So 0.5 into 1.32. We have to move this decimal 1 place to the right and move this decimal 1 place to the right to make this a whole number. So this would be 5 into 13.2. And we'll bring up our decimal. 5 doesn't go into 1, but 5 goes into 13 twice. 2 times 5 is 10. 13 minus 10 is 3. We bring down our 2. 5 goes into 32 6 times. 6 times 5 is 30, and we have 2 remaining. But since we're dealing with decimals, we don't write a remainder. We add a 0, and we bring that 0 down. So now 5 goes into 20 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. There's no remainder. So our final answer is 2.64. Okay, now we go here and we're going to do a couple of these problems here to continue on with this lesson, to finish this lesson out with multiplication and division of decimals. So we look here, it says choose the one best answer to each question. So I'm going to do problem 24. No, 23 is good because they asked us to round too. Ribbon costs 0.45 cents per foot. A sewing project calls for 20.5 feet of ribbon. To the nearest cent, what would be the cost of the ribbon for the project? So this is a multiplication problem. So we would take 23, problem 23, is 45 cents the cost. But we want to use 20.5 feet of ribbon. So we will have to multiply this. Now, if we drop the decimal, we're going to have a longer number here than we are at the top. So let's flip these numbers, and we'll do 20.5 times 0.45. So we multiply 5 times 5 is 25, 5 carry a 2, 5 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2, 5 times 2 is 10, add a 0, 4 times 5 is 20, that'll be 0 carry a 2, 4 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2, 4 times 2 is 8. So we add these values. So now we have 5, 2, 2, 9. So we count how many digits we have behind the decimal. We have 3 digits behind the decimal. So it'd be 9.225. However, they asked us to round to the nearest cent. Now we know with our money, we typically only go 2 places behind the decimal. So that means we're rounding to the hundredths place. So it'll be this 2, and the digit right next to it is this 5. So this goes in a range from 5 to 9. So that means we increase this value by 1, and it'd be 9.23. So it'd be $9.23, which is B. So that's problem 23. Now problem 24. It says Armando drove 278.7 miles over a 3-day period. On average, how many miles did he drive each day? Now, if they're asking us how many miles he drove each day, that's letting us know that we're dividing. So we would take the 278.7 and divide it by 3. 278.7 divided by 3, and we will write this in a typical division form that we're used to writing it in. And we'll bring up our decimal. 3 doesn't go into 2, but 3 goes into 27 9 times. 9 times 3 is 27. 27 minus 27 is 0. And we'll bring down our 8. 3 goes into 8 twice. 2 times 3 is 6. 8 minus 6 is 2. Bring down our 7. 3 goes into 27 9 times. 9 times 3 is 27. And we have no remainder. So our answer is 92.9, which would be C. Okay, last but not least, let me see. We're going to do 25. Problem 25 states a box of toasted oat cereal is priced at $4.94. What is the cost per serving? So listen, they give you a little hint here. They tell you to divide the price by the number of servings. So the price is $4.94. What's that? $4.94. And it'll be divided by the number of servings. So toasted oats have 19 servings. So it'll be $4.94 divided by 19. So we would take 19 into 4.94. We'll bring up our decimal. 19 doesn't go into 4. Well, 19 goes into 4 0 times. 19 goes into 49 twice. 2 times 19 is 38. 49 minus 38 is 11. You'll bring down your 4. Now, 19 goes into 114 6 times. 6 times 9 is 54. So you have 4, carry your 5. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 5 is 11. You have no remainder, so your final answer would be 0.26, and that would be C. Now they ask us here, let's take a look at 26. I'm going to go ahead and do 26 to finish this off. It says Lee bought 4 boxes of honey mix cereal. How many ounces of cereal did she buy? So let me go ahead and take care of that. That was problem 26. Problem 26. So we look at honey mixed cereal, and the weight is 12.5. And we have to multiply that by 4 because they want to know the total amount that was bought. So we multiply. 4 times 5 is 20. 0 carrier 2. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. 0 carrier 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And you notice we have 1 digit behind the decimal. So it's 50.0, which is B. And that concludes this second lesson, and it will be posted on YouTube. Have a wonderful day.